Change your mind, change your money, change your life. I am Coach Rob Lee Simmons, the host of this podcast, and let me be your tour guide to greatness. Welcome to the Greatness Academy podcast. I have an amazing guest for you today. Not only is she an entrepreneur, she's a big Facebook influencer. She's a major player in the homeschool industry. She is a mogul and she is a future billionaire. And she is also my wife. Welcome to the show, Kalecia Simmons.
Thank you.
So let's get into the business, and thank you for coming on my show. I want you to kind of give the people a little bit about yourself. Can you tell us like how you grew up? What was like growing up in Murfreesboro, Tennessee like?
How I grew up. Okay. I kind of grew up on both sides of the tracks. And let me say, I grew up like really suburban, but also very much in the country. So my mother is a teacher, so I spent a lot of my time in the school system, around school, summer school programs, sports youth stuff during the summer, things like that with her. And then my grandparents and my father are all farmers. So then I also spent lots of summers in tobacco fields and with the Angus cattle. We had two different cattle farms. My grandparents' farm was a Hereford cattle farm, which those are like those reddish brown and white cows you see when you're driving down the road. And then my family farm in Murfreesboro is Butler Angus Farms, and those are the black, really right now what you would say you see a lot with commercial burgers, beef cattle. You think of Angus. So I grew up on cattle farms and tobacco farms, and I grew up in the church. I was born literally in the AME church. My grandparents were what you would say the pillars of the AME church in their town. And then, of course, my mother moved to Murfreesboro, and Murfreesboro is a part of a really big AME church there. So I have that African-American Episcopal background. If you know anything about YPD, I'm a YPDer. YPD for life, baby. That's pretty much it. You know, like I had the regular suburban lifestyle. I went to elementary school, went to middle school. I played sports. I got really serious about sports when I got in middle school. And then, of course, I played for one of the top coaches in the world in high school. So I had a great experience growing up in Murfreesboro in Middle Tennessee.
So you come from a long line of educators, your mother being a teacher and your grandpa, your grandpa, and your grandpa being just a true educator. How did their education background and your experience growing up influence how you homeschool?
Oh, 100%. 100%. So I will say this, my grandfather was known in the community and across the state for agriculture. So the land, the farm, the boys state, like all of those different, 4-H and all of these FFA. My grandfather was like the Future Farmers of America president, nationally recognized, all of this. So I incorporate that in my homeschool all the time. We do gardening, we learn horticulture, we're outside a lot. We do a lot of animal science. Animal science is the base of my homeschool, I think, because it's one of my favorite sciences. And since I don't have a farm, I raise my kids little scientists, and we do a lot of like ants and bugs and etymology and animal science. We talk a lot about animals and nature and things like that. And then, of course, my grandmother also was a teacher, but she was very sweet. Think of the sweetest little poodle lady that was just so cute and sweet. To me, she was like the epitome of how I am with the kindergarten, first, second graders. It's just, the loving, bosomy, sweet, energetic, arts and craftsy. I incorporate a lot of that into our curriculum with homeschool, and we do a lot of little projects. We do story times. I put on the little fluffy dress to be the best little teacher, Miss Daisy, that I can for them. And then my mom was the teacher that everyone wanted. Like that, she was that teacher, and she's a sixth grade science teacher, and she really is a genius, really. My mom was the type of teacher that could have the Weather Channel up in her classroom for the kids that sometimes got distracted. And then she would be on the board always doing something for the kids that needed to be learning constantly. But then there was also like assignments that could be done. So she was able to manage a classroom, baby. She knows how to manage a class or room. And I think she was like way before her time, and they didn't get it.
Yeah, for sure.
Honestly, I think that's sometimes how I feel about my education style. I do have a very Miss Frizzle Magic School Bus education style, and I think it's well before my time.
Yeah, absolutely. And so that kind of leads me into the next question. I believe that your schooling style is just so above standard. What makes the way that you teach homeschool so much more different from everybody else, or the standard? Let me Google what homeschool is and what it looks like. What makes yours stand out the most?
I would definitely say the structure style. It's weird because a lot of people look at my style and they would call it unschooling. If you research unschooling, it looks like mine, but mine's not unschooling. I am actually schooling. My classroom is just very active, and it's a 24-hour classroom. Mm-hmm. So it looks like unschooling, but it's really not. So ideally, what I would say separates my style from most is I am also in the class. I'm not just teaching the kids stuff, giving them things. I am equally learning together with them, and then we're discovering stuff. And then as we're discovering things, maybe I don't know, maybe I don't. I'm pretty explorative, so I do know way more than they do right now. But even in the style of right now, we're discovering at Alexander Hamilton, and we went to go to his gravesite yesterday because the girls asked about it. I didn't know his gravesite was in New York. I've been to New York 50,000 times. I didn't know that, but they're interested in the story. And some part of the show or the song or something talks about it. And that was enough for them. And so we ended up going, and we got to see the gravesite. We got to see his daughter's gravesite. We got to see one of the oldest cathedrals in the state of New York, in the world, actually. So I think it's pretty cool the way I homeschool. But I would say I'm in the class. The classroom never ends. It goes from all ages. Constantly thinking of assignments, but my assignments, very much like my mother, the one that had the TV screen up, sometimes my assignments are not paper or book. Sometimes my assignments are character building. Sometimes my assignments are music. Like I want them to really investigate music on their own. So I give them like little tasks and things, songs, and I introduce them to stuff. I get them down rabbit holes of music. In cultural information, global knowledge. I've got two that are obsessed with Japanese, like Japanese culture and Japanese art. And I really want them to dig deep and go down the rabbit hole, learn the language, understand it. I challenge them with things that most school systems probably would say are a distraction. And if it's something that they're into and I see that they're focusing on it, I make it about work. I do. I turn it into an assignment. Now, guess what? You love being on the computer all day? Good. Now you're a tech expert.
Let me ask you this, and I want to be able to tell your story, right? I want to go into your life in sports. Let's talk a little bit about what that looked like for you growing up, and then maybe the follow-up for me, because I'm going to try to give you 2 in 1, so I'm going to let you talk. But the follow-up would be, you played college basketball. How has your path in sports leading up to college basketball influenced your life today?
Oh, okay. So the first part is about sports. I started sports about 5 to 6 years old, somewhere around in there. And my first sport is actually track. I don't know if you know. Track is my first sport. And my mom got me in this track meet when I was really little. And I did pretty good and I liked it. I was competitive by nature. I'm very much like Raina. And then after that, once I was old enough to sign up for basketball, she signed me up for basketball. And I remember being like younger, telling my grandfather, I'm not going to ever play basketball. They kept telling me I was tall. And I was like, I don't want to do that.
Like Riley.
So about 7 and second grade, I remember wanting to be a cheerleader. So I did that for a little bit. I did gymnastics for a little bit. And I liked them. But I don't know. I don't think I felt like I fit in with cheerleading. Like it wasn't going enough. I kind of wanted to be on the field. It just didn't feel like I wasn't getting the energy out like I wanted to. So
There's too many breaks in between.
I think it was just too soft for me. Let me be honest. And at that particular time, it wasn't no competitive cheer. It was literally stand on the sideline and wait for something to happen. So I do remember transferring into basketball and being much taller than everyone else. So then I loved basketball because I had a little advantage. And at the same time I was doing basketball in elementary school, I was also running track. So I've run track over 30 years and been a part of the track community for over 30 years and been just exposed to probably some of the most extreme athletes the world has ever seen, honestly. And, in high school, I was on one of the top and the most competitive teams in the nation. Playing basketball at that level under that type of leadership. I was a part of an organization called the Fellowship of Christian Athletes. Between Fellowship of Christian Athletes, which was led by a legend, Ricky Fields, before that, I really didn't understand what sports was. Once we got in Fellowship of Christian Athletes, and we kind of took on leadership roles, right? And then I started working with the greatest coach on earth, which is Michael Bird. He exposed us to character. So it was like character building on top of, the love of Jesus Christ. And, it was just like a lot. It was like a lot in building me up as who I was. And then I had probably one of the most extreme incidents happen to me right after going to some D1 college visits. I tore my ACL playing volleyball. And I love volleyball. I was really good at volleyball. I probably could have played college volleyball and even played professional volleyball. I was that good. I know I could have played professional volleyball because my friends are playing professional volleyball. But ultimately, that sport it was me doing something because I could, right? It really was. It was me flexing a muscle just because I had it. And I do remember, hurting my knee, being at this tournament. A lot of my friends were there. They saw it. Which I think is the reason why they're in my life now is because they literally saw with their own eyes the will that I had after coming back from that injury. I had just left UNC at an invitational. I'm playing with players like Ivory Latta and, like some of the top girls in the world. And I had this injury. I go back to Tennessee because or back to Murfreesboro. We were in Chattanooga. I go back to Murfreesboro. They tell me I'm going to be out for the rest of the year. But that was the junior year going into my senior year. Like senior year is when
you already locked in.
Like this is my team. This is my team when you're a senior year. And we had 5 solid seniors. So think about a team that's got 5 seniors that are all solid. Like solid. And one tears their ACL. So anyways, luckily we had Crystal Horton. Thank you, Jesus, for Crystal Horton. After that injury, I faced probably the beast in myself. And they told me it was going to be like December. Actually, they told me it was going to be the entire year. I would not get to come back. Then they scaled it back to 6 months recovery. And I remember we had another girl that had we had 2 actually that tore their ACL too that year that were seniors, but they had already been healed and gotten back. But I remember my coach looking at me like, what are we going to do here now? And I just decided I don't care what anyone else is saying. I'm going to train and get back. And I'm going to be the most reliable senior in this program. And I did. Every practice I was on a bike. I did not take any practices off. I didn't sleep in. I was up when they were up. I was in my uniform. Every time I could put on my brace and maybe do some warm-ups, I was doing them. And they had to tell me to go sit down. They had to literally tell me to go sit down. The trainers we had really amazing trainers during this time too. So they were making sure I was good. Icing. I had all the recovery. I had everything. I had the #1 surgeon do my surgery in the country at the time. He was the same one that does the Tennessee Titans surgery. I was determined to be back. And that level of acknowledgement within myself, it really just set the bar for the rest of my life. Like going into that and then getting a college scholarship because I was in a position where I might not even gotten a college scholarship. So getting the scholarship, going to a school that had just won its conference championship, I was still going to get the experience being a part of a championship college team. And, I really did redeem myself during that time after the injuries. I felt really blessed with the people that surrounded me, the people that raised me and coached me early on in life. And I feel indebted to them. So I'm really excited that I have the ability now to talk about them on a platform like this and tell people their names.
So what I want to do right now is I want to name drop a little bit, and then I want you to tell me their influence in you. So it's gonna be a nice little list. So I want you to just be. I want you to pour out.
Okay, so you want me to tell people how I know these people? What do you want me to say? You want me to tell the relationship?
I want you to tell me. I'm gonna give you a name, and you tell me the first thing you think of.
Oh God, this is scary.
Oh, this is awesome.
Don't give me any bad.
This is awesome. This is what we do on my show.
Okay.
She don't know. Hey, I think she probably watched 3 episodes, but she don't know this is what we do on my show.
I'm nervous because I'm in a vulnerable position.
Absolutely.
You know some names that I might not want to be said. Voldemort. You don't get it. Wow. You don't get it, babe.
Okay, my show. This guy time got to tuck it back. All right, Karen Knox.
Oh, my mom. Okay, this is an easy one. Her impact on my life, was that the question?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so I can remember it. Let me tell you, this is really cute. I can remember being like 4 and thinking, man, I want to have big muscles, right? Like I remember that. And she used to go work out at like Nissan. This is like when she was working at Nissan and she was wearing them like scrunchy socks. Y'all remember when y'all mama used to do aerobics and they used to wear them scrunchy socks? But she used to be cute going to the gym and she used to have muscles. And I just thought, wow, I want to have muscles. And that's the story of my life. The end. The end. Everything about her, people love her, children love her. She knows all the answers. She's very talented. She's extremely brilliant. She's so resourceful. Her network is unlimited. I've had to learn multiple languages just to compete with her network. I've had to go to other countries to be her network. It's crazy and mind-blowing. I've been in foreign countries with her, and she done found somebody she knew. You cannot go anywhere with my mom without somebody that she know. She gonna know somebody.
If she don't know nobody, she met her.
She gonna find out who them people are.
Mm-hmm.
Oh my gosh! But yeah, so I love her. I'm learning a lot from that part of her nature to apply to my mission. Because right now I'm on a mission. I think my mom is just being who she is, right?
Mm-hmm.
I'm weaponizing it. And I'm weaponizing it in a way to where I want to build the culture. Like, who do you know? Who do you know? Who do you know? Who do you know? Who your mama? Who your people is? Where they stay at? What language do they speak? Where they cook? Using that method. I'm using that method. You're laughing because you know it's true.
Yeah.
Understand?
Absolutely. It's hilarious.
Okay. So this is what I'm doing, except for I'm doing it on a global scale.
Mm-hmm. It's 1%er stuff.
Yeah. So because I'm doing it on a global scale, I am my mom. I'm just my mom 2.0 with sharper edges and a plan. Oh, really? Like an agenda. Not necessarily a plan, because the plan is still kind of complicated. You know what I'm saying? But an agenda. And my agenda is grow our people, find the answers, tell the truth, liberate, magnify the greatness of who we are, and give glory to the universe, who we all are a part of. And I think that I'm learning how to do this really quickly. And as I get older and I mature, I really am blessed to have my mom still in my life, because now I can go to her for questions.
I got more names.
Okay, keep going.
James Fletcher.
Okay, the first thing that comes to mind, I don't know, my daddy was born standing there yelling at me about something. I think that he's a genius. He probably was one of the most athletic people to come out of Murfreesboro, Tennessee, but never got the glory for it or the recognition. And that has a lot to do with just technology. I'm going to be honest. I think he had maybe some sort of injury that hurt his career early on, very similar to mine, but because of technology and then access to it, he didn't quite get the jump back that he needed. But he was brilliant and then utilized other things. He was a Vietnam vet, And I mean, he was an infantry soldier. He's got a Purple Heart. I've heard stories about him coming back from Vietnam, and I've never really gotten anything from him other than it was bad. At least it was really, really bad. You know, and I try to like be delicate with him about it. But I'm grateful for him. During the time that I was joining the Army, he was really like my person. You know, he was my support system. He was definitely my most solid parent during that season of my life. He came and lived with me. He helped me with my kids. You know, during that time, he also taught me how to get my disability from the Army. And, you know, he gave me a lot of life lessons. You know, he helped me figure out, you know, man wasn't shit. Like he was on my head because he lived with me. And if you can imagine being a single mom with 2 kids, I think I'm grown. And my dad's trying to tell me who I can date and who I can't date. And niggas ain't shit. But ultimately, he had the right thing in mind. Like, he really was looking out for my best interest. And I can remember him saying to me, at one point, I asked him if he could do something with my car. He said, oh, you got all these niggas coming around. Ain't nobody know how to fix a car. And I was thinking, dang,
Yeah.
that's stone cold. But what that taught me was that at least there should be some value coming around if you're going to be coming around, or else it's a disrespect to the man who lives in this house as my father. You know, I did learn a lot from him during that time in my life. And of course, he passed down this very spiritual gift of cooking. And I'm very thankful for it because I got to experience it with him. And yeah, I'm trying not to get emotional.
Yeah. Know how to push a button. James Butler.
Hmm. Mm-hmm. I remember. I didn't like him because he used to make me eat everything right. He was so annoying. He wouldn't let me get away with anything, nothing. He was always watching. No one else was watching. And I remember telling my mom, I don't want you to marry him. He's not nice. But he was so nice. He was very nice. And he's always nice to me. But I remember sitting in church saying, I don't want them to get married. And now I'm looking back, that was probably Johnny. Johnny just being mad because he had to sit still. But I'm so glad that he raised me and I got to learn fearlessness from him. And I'm just really glad he's my dad because he's really smart. He's the reason I speak so well. He wouldn't let me pronounce or enunciate anything incorrectly. He wouldn't let me mess up my writing ever. He used to make me write book reports after book reports after book reports. And it's the reason why I'm smarter than most people. It's because I know how to get information, I know how to learn it, and I know discipline. I'm a weapon.
Vicky Butler.
I love Miss Vicky. It's weird because I don't remember the beginning. I just feel like she's always been.
Been there.
I don't remember officially meeting her, but I've known her literally my entire existence. So I'm gonna be honest. Some of them grown folks know this. I don't know the answer to this. I'm not sure when I met Miss Vicky, but I do know I can remember thinking she was just the tiniest. Like she's short, she's little, but she was like her handshake and her like voice. That like the way that she did her conversation with people, you could just tell she means business, right? Like she was just like, she's that character in the movie that gets things done, right? That was just her. And I remember being little thinking to myself, wow, she's a superhero. But she wasn't mean, right? Like she was very like, like she could make you laugh, but she was like on top of it. And I just remember thinking that was really cool to have that type of power and to have that type of ability with people. I think I can just remember thinking to myself, wow, you know, my stepbrother Trey, that's his mom. So I was like, man, you got a cool mom. She had a big house. She had a really cool job. You know, she was just like nice. She drove nice cars. She was just responsible. She just seemed like she had it together, right? Her clothes match. She was like on top of it. Hair was done, nails were done, right? Jewelry shining. Like she just seemed like she was on top of it. Now, God knows what really was going on. He might have been scrambling to get out the door. We don't know the truth. But in my perspective as a little girl growing up, I thought, wow, I'm learning now, though, the connection to these historical families is a lot of the reason why I grew up around a lot of Black excellence. It's deep, but historically her family was one of the nearest green farm families, right? So that was in Shelbyville, Tennessee. So you got to think Shelbyville, Tennessee, and then James Butler. We were in Murfreesboro, Tennessee, and the Butler farm, which is another 100-year-old farm. Butler Farm is right down the street from Shelbyville. Not really, but we all in the same community. If it's a Black farm, we know everybody. And then my grandparents' farm, which was in Hartsville in Carthage, Tennessee. So it's just like these major Black farmers back in the day, their children were Black royalty, so to speak, in the 80s, right? In the 70s and the 80s. And they were the college grads and the HBCU grads and the ones that were highly educated, and parents were educated as well. So I'm learning now my connection with that and how that's trickled down to me. And, you know, now that I'm going back home and learning a lot more about the history, it's really dope being connected with people of power, like Miss Vicky.
Myra Payne.
Oh, Graniti. She's like the Whitley character in my story from Dwayne Wayne's Whitley. Like she was like the light-skinned, whimsical rich aunt with a Mercedes Benz, right? The AKA of the family. And she traveled the world and she had furs and she had foreign men, and baby, her life was amazing. She ate caviar and she had steak for dinner. And I remember the first time, she flew me out. She flew me out.
Got flued out.
I got flued out at 9 years old. Think about this, 9 years old, that's Reagan, right? Flew me out to San Antonio. We had avocado fresh from the tree. And she taught me how to use the dishwasher because we don't wash our dishes by hand. And I remember she had an automatic garage door opener because we don't open our garage with our hand either. It was so amazing. It was so amazing. She enrolled me in the Boys and Girls Club. I got to learn how to ride the city bus. That was the first time I'd ever had Little Caesars pizza in San Antonio, Texas. And then she drove me to Mexico. Like, we literally drove to Mexico. 9 years old. That's a great story. She got me clothes and bags. And I mean, we ate food and we rode boats, and it was just extravagance, right? It was absolutely extravagance. It probably cost $32.16.
Now that you figured it out, now that you're
hustle. Now that I know the hustle, it probably cost $36.16. But I love her. She's always raising the bar. You know, she joined the military, which is one of the reasons why I definitely wanted to join the military, because I saw what it did for her life. And financially, I saw how it created a level of stability that I didn't see anywhere else, honestly. So even with that, you know, seeing her travel with the military, and she was just, you know, very powerful lieutenant colonel. She ran hospitals. I just let myself, you know, it was just like another affirmation. Oh, I come from people who do this, so I need to be able to do this. And it was just like the standard just kept raising. And I'm so glad, you know, she ran for senator. I got to help with the campaign. You know, it was just, you know, even now, she's like, I'm in Congress. I'm like, girl, slow down. I'm trying to catch up here. But just watching her parent and, she's able to get her daughter through Spelman and, her daughter's flying around the world creating art curations. And it's just like she really did write the scripts for the fairy tale and live that shit. I'm glad that she is one of the pillar examples that I've had in life. And I'm extremely grateful for her. She's like a live fairy, really, like a little princess fairy godmother that comes through with a magic wand and NFL tickets appear. Maybe she gonna go to do something fancy and it's gonna be amazing, like front row.
She came over for a few hours from Virginia for Christmas with a TV. Here's a TV.
Yeah. She's that person. Like,
here's a whole TV. I don't know where y'all gonna put it.
you guys have going on. Here's a gift.
Here's a TV and a wine over. Oh man, amazing. How about Tillman Payne?
Oh, Uncle Tillman. Okay, so very similar, except for I think Uncle Tillman was like the dad uncle, right? So
Cool uncle.
yeah. He was definitely. I don't know if I'd say the cool uncle because that wouldn't be fair to Uncle Jimmy because like they're still in competition here.
Yeah.
Like they really are. And
That was next on my list. You might as well roll with it.
hold on. I'll come back. But I just want to let y'all know there's still a tie. The verdict is not out yet. They're both very equally awesome. Uncle Tillman was the one who taught me how to ride a bike at 5 years old. He was the uncle that I felt like was prestigious in a way because he was in the Air Force. He also drove fancy cars, but probably didn't. But that's my memory. Like he probably had a Honda. But you got to understand.
It was clean inside.
We didn't have a Honda.
Mhm.
We didn't. I don't know what we had, but it wasn't a Honda. Right. So to me, he was driving a fancy car. And he had sunglasses on vacation. Things that you just, like cool man stuff. Like he had cargo pockets in his cargo pants. Like he was just like.
He was so country now I think about it. He was so country bumpkin.
It was just like.
He had sunglasses.
He had those like bow shoes with no socks.
Oh man, that's funny.
He's fancy. And I remember he lived out in California. My cousin's mom was in California. They had this fancy Californian feel to them. Like they did stuff like Californians do, technology, right? Like my cousin used to have a video game and I remember my grandmother would be like, turn it off. And we all would be like, let him play. And now he's like corporate something in that world out in California. So Uncle Tillman to me was the example of a good dad, right? What a good dad looks like. He got married, I think when I was like maybe like 12, 11, 12. I don't know how old I was. But that was the second time we got taken out to California. And we got to go see like Beverly Hills, all of these places, and it opened my eyes up to what Hollywood and all of that was. And I kind of got understanding. And I'm very young still at this age, so I was impressionable. It helped me build like a vision for some of the things that I thought I would want to do. And their wedding was beautiful. It was like some countryside, beautiful little cathedral type space. And it was really nice. And our family got to come. So I always liked the fact that when Uncle Tillman did something, the family would want to come and he would have the family come. And I think that that's something that I definitely learned from him is just like continually to hit back on the family coming situation. Because first of all, y'all need to see what we're doing and y'all need to see what we have going on and that it's more than what y'all think it is. And I think that was important, right? We all needed to be exposed to more than just what we saw in our surrounding areas. So he exposed me to a lot. He took me to Mexico as well. A little later on in life, I think I was 13 or 14 years old. I experienced my first earthquake there. That was crazy. And we were in Acapulco, so I got to learn a lot about Mexican culture. I was older, so I understood better. We went to Disney World for the first time, I think, with Uncle Tillman. So it was a lot of first family, impressionable activities that we did that I really felt, okay, these are the types of things that I'm going to do with my family, right? Family does this. And that was the example that I had, I felt, as a dad, uncle example.
Uncle Jimmy.
Uncle Jimmy equal.
Jimmy Payne.
I mean, oh my God. Okay, so he was younger than Uncle Tillman. So he was more like how I'm sure my kids view Oscar, just like a younger uncle. He was kind of cooler, but younger. It was more teenagey, it felt, for a very long time. And he was gone away a long time. For a while, he worked in Knoxville. He was doing his thing in Knoxville. You know, I didn't really see him as much. But I remember when he brought his kids to my grandparents' house and everything changed, right? Like all of our lives changed forever. So he has these amazing sons and an amazing wife. And they are like, I remember thinking, these are Bebe's kids, right? They were jumping off at Johnny. They were jumping off at
Johnny Chase.
And Uncle Jimmy was letting them. He was letting them. And you know what? I thought to myself, man, I wish my dad let me jump off the couch and kind of do gun games and rolling in the dirt and stuff like that. He let his kids have a good time.
He let them be kids.
He did. And he let them wrestle and fight and go at it. And I just thought that was really important. I learned a lot about his character because he has been such a loyal dad to them. Even though those are not all his biological children, you can't tell and you never could. And then, you know, of course, he does have a biological son who also lived in another city. And the way our family raised us to just love no matter what angle it came from, I think that was extremely valuable. Same thing with all of the pieces, you know, Miss Vicky and James Butler. And these are step parents, you know, and co-parents and people who've been divorced and, you know, single dads. Like there were a lot of components, second-time wives. We never skipped a beat in our family. We didn't say, oh, this is the second wife. We never did that. I never heard nobody say nothing like that. Like, I just wasn't raised like that. It just felt you're here now. And if somebody's second wives, first, third, fourth came around, nobody acted like nothing. And it wasn't like in a toxic way or, you know, like from how I felt. Now, I don't know what the adults felt because everyone has their own thoughts, but ultimately love was shown, period, across the board. We all used to go to church together. Like it was definitely a loving environment. And I'm grateful for all my aunts and uncles and all of my parents and godparents. And yeah.
Kimberly Payne.
Aunt Kim, she's like the inspector, right? She's the person that came into our family and tightened that shit right the fuck up. Okay? Let me say it again, because I don't care what anybody says. I'm 40 years old at this point. Y'all, anybody got mad, don't feel mad, be mad. I can raise the bar in a different way than any of the other women in my family could. And point blank period is because she wasn't from there. She wasn't from there. So she had a totally different outlook. She had different experiences. Maybe she went to the mountains and drank her wine there too. So what are you saying? It wasn't like a comparison, but a more so. And also there is this as well. She was in pharmaceuticals very early on that I remember in her career and experiencing growing up and seeing her career and how she was after it in that industry. And I mean, it showed in their lifestyle.
So next name, Michael Burt.
Michael Burt is, what I want to call him, like a leprechaun. I don't know what to call him. He's like, I don't know. He's definitely a unicorn and not what you think. Not what you think. He's definitely bottom line, upfront and at all times. Like he's no nonsense. Now, I guess I will say that about what he shows is definitely who he is, but he actually just is that way. Like he just actually happens to truly just be that way and it works. So it's easy when you can challenge people to be great, when you're just naturally good at being great and determined. He's mastered his mind. I've taken a lot of his lessons in coaching and transformed my life in so many different areas. And most of that is just like mental fortitude and the resiliency, being able to train your mind to be resilient. And I'm so glad that I learned that at such an early age. He coached us from 14 years old until 18 years old. And he had a group of literal geniuses, savants. And everybody wasn't a basketball savant, but everyone was literally, I'm talking about the smartest people I know on earth. Some of the most brilliant women who are very, very athletic and also geniuses working together and playing a sport. I'm grateful that he was able to teach us teamwork. He took us to like team building exercises that were more difficult than what I experienced in basic training.
That's crazy.
And when I got to basic training, I was a little nervous going to basic training. Let me back up. I was scared to death to go to college to play basketball because I had played for Coach Bird. So I thought college was going to be more intense than what I had just experienced. And I was very nervous about it. So nervous that I went to a pre-workout at my university. I met my best friend, who is my current best friend, and I AOL chatted her for a year. Very skeptical about college, period, because we, just having exposure to what the type of standard that he had in our program and thinking that college was going to be the next level, I was nervous. So I had these apprehensions going into different parts of my life. Then I get into them, basic training, and I realized what I did with Coach Burr was harder than what I ever could have. There wasn't anything too hard for me in the Army because of what Coach Burr taught me. There wasn't anything. I'm talking about grenades. I'm talking about white rifles. I'm talking about going to the board I just got off the bus at basic training. I'm the first one in line. My drill sergeant was like, "Who's this girl?" I was sharp. I was able to remember everything. I was leading the troops. Easy. This is camp. What are we doing? This is camp. I'm the captain. Like it was very, very enlightening. So I will say that parenting, any type of career, culinary, anything that I've done, culinary school was a piece of work. The French are serious about their traditions and their culture in the culinary scene. Coach Burt will eat them alive. Only person that I would put him up against is Gordon Ramsay. That's the level he on. That's who he is in my world. Like he's no nonsense and can back it up. Period. He's not even going to hold you to a standard that he can't hold to himself to. He's not going to do it. And because he doesn't hold you to a standard that he can't hold, you're constantly trying to reach the standard that he holds for himself. Let me be great. Okay, let me be greater. And I think that all of my teammates would say this about Coach Burt. He taught us how to plow through obstacles, objections, and he taught us how to take advantage of opportunity. So
that's good. Now let's get a little bit more on the iconic level. Let's talk about Beyonce.
Beyonce to me is a brain, and I admire her because I think she strategically mastered something that I am aiming to do currently, and that is just doing what you love, being paid for it, enjoying it, making your own rules, creating your own, way of life, and being able to impact globally. And I think she's doing it. She's a mom. She's got her kids on stage. She's making documentaries. She's dropping movies. She's dropping books. She's dropping clothes. She's dropping music, albums, switching genres, breaking records, setting standards, rewriting history. She is being a queen in the sense of what queening is. And I'm excited that I can associate myself with Beyonce because I really do feel like, I have a spiritual assignment to lead women. And I think she's doing that. She's leading women, whether or not y'all want to admit it, she is. And I think she's leading them in a good direction. So I don't understand what the problem is, right? Like she's faith-based, she's family-focused, and she's all about creating financial wealth. And it's something that I hope that people will say about me. Wow, she's family focused. She's, financially oriented. She's got it together. I want people to say that. And she's faith based. She understands. She's grounded. She's rooted in her morals and values. She's not swaying to the left and the right. Character is strong. And she's fine. Like all of the above, fit.
Fawn Weaver.
I just recently stumbled across discovering Fawn Weaver. So I'm like a new fan. I'm not even going to perpetrate like I'm an old fan. But the more I study, I read her biography and I ordered her other book. And I'm like really doing a lot of research. I've been doing a lot of research on her lately. At her story, she's different. She's built different than Beyonce. I feel like Beyonce has been a star since the beginning, and I think Fawn has been a effect, if that makes sense. Fawn has come into the world determined, just snowballed her way to where she is multiple ways, though, not with just one industry. And I think that's why I really like her, is because, you know, she was a teenage homeless victim. And, you know, and I don't want to call it a victim because she left home, you know, but she was in a homeless shelter. She grew up in California, like hustling, getting jobs, you know, being a server, waitressing, things like that. And, you know, she learned how to network the real way. And she did. She built a network. She opened a PR firm. She had millions of dollars in clients, and everything was just doom, you know, and not that it happened so simply because she had a lot of setbacks, but it just kept going.
True one percenter.
Yeah, she just kept going, and she didn't look left and right. And of course, when she got with her husband, it was just like even more of a snowball effect of excellence. And okay, now we're knocking this off the board. The other thing that a lot of people don't talk a lot about is Fawn Weaver's family background. Her dad is connected to a lot of the Motown artists in Detroit. So she comes from, he's a pastor. She comes from a storyline that is, we haven't brought that story to light yet. Like it hasn't really been highlighted, but she also is a little bit of Black royalty. She really is. She's definitely Motown princess. Like she's along the same lines that she would put the Jackson 5's kids, right? Like those people. And I think that says a lot. It puts me a lot in the mind of Michelle Obama, a little bit of her story and kind of like the Black excellence background. And then understanding historically, there were Black people with things who were highly educated and working hard. And I think that's the problem, is we're not talking a lot about those stories, and now they're starting to come about. But just understanding where you come from is what I'm learning from following the Fawn Weaver effect. Is understanding where you come from helps you propel yourself into the future and also impact. I like Fawn. I'm excited. I can't wait to meet her.
You're a big Harry Potter fan. How? And I'm not. Just because I don't know. And so this is your opportunity to educate people who really don't follow Harry Potter and understand the significance of it. Can you tell me how Harry Potter
expose me?
You know, not exposure, really. It's just a level of creativity and a different way to look at something from a perspective that you may have not understood before. But how can other people, how does Harry Potter align with real life?
Let me just preface this by saying, don't y'all start telling people I said I was a witch, because I never said that. What I will say, though, is I love the wizard world. I love everything fantasy. I've always done fantasy. I've always read fantasy books since probably 4 years old. I can remember reading books like Harry Potter, stories like Peter Pan, you know, just The Little Mermaid, all of these fairy tale, stream, fantastical beings and also creatures. And I've always been drawn to it. When Harry Potter, the book series, came out, I immediately cracked the books open. I don't remember how old I was. I get it kind of blurred, but whatever year the first book came out, that was the first year I read the book, and I read all of them. And how will I say that it affects my life, or how do I incorporate it into my life? Or a lot of ways. I think what people who are in the Harry Potter world will be able to articulate, I think, or would want to articulate to people who are not in the Harry Potter world, is literally there's a lot of goodness in the characteristics and storylines in this book. There's a lot of hope and, you know, a lot of principles that you learn within the book that help you throughout life, that I don't know if you have never read the series and fully understood what the storyline is all about. You can't just watch the movies. You really got to understand from the beginning and read it. But there are a lot of core values that you learn: family, dedication, loyalty, honor, bravery, all of personalities. Okay. So what you would consider personalities, I would just consider human nature, right? The way that, let's just say, for instance, because I know where you're getting at, the way that the houses are divided within Harry Potter. There are different houses, you know, the Gryffindor, there's Hufflepuff, there's Slytherin, and there's Ravenclaw. And so all of those different houses are named after people. So this isn't just some weird name that we gave it and we were weirdos and we said, no, these are people. And those people were major wizards in the wizarding world. These are the Barack Obamas, the Malcolm X, the Martin Luther King. Think that big. Now think, Malcolm X had a way though, didn't he? Muhammad Ali kind of had his own way, right? JFK had a way. He had a way about him. He was a charismatic, pretty boy, Italian, got the cute gal.
He was Irish.
Yeah, you know what I'm saying.
I got you.
You know what I'm saying. So there's a way about people. And within the wizarding world, these particular houses are designed that way after their founders. And in our household, I use those principles of the founders to kind of identify the character that I notice in my kids. So I divide our children into houses based off of the character that they're displaying. Now, they understand it on the surface. I think when they really, truly read the books like Justin, they'll truly identify with a house and they'll stick to it. And something I learned about myself for a long time, I wanted to be a Gryffindor. If you're a Harry Potter fan, you understand why anybody who reads the books would want to be a Gryffindor, because that's Harry Potter's house. They're the noble leaders. They're the honest lions. They're the good, so to speak, ones. But ultimately, I'm a Slytherin, and Slytherin are good as well. They're very powerful wizards, but they kind of have a way about them that's manipulating. And they're good at it. They're very good at manipulating, and they run nations behind manipulation. And the people who follow them are all the manipulators. You know, they've got their way, and they do a lot of great good in the wizarding world. Unfortunately, there was one Slytherin who didn't do great in the wizarding world, and not just one. Okay, there were a lot. When he went rogue, most of the Slytherins followed him and went rogue too. So they have the capacity to lean more towards the negative side of the character. And that's a weakness that they have. And they know that. They all know it. And ultimately, they learn throughout the books how to work together, how to actually save people with their Gryffindor friends and Ravenclaw and Hufflepuff. I think it's really important, the lessons that are learned in this storyline. I could go on and on and on for days about Harry Potter. I love it. The world is so in depth. And then, of course, they threw in the magical creatures. And I just, I'm in that world too.
So following your basketball college career, you went on to become a culinarian. And I'm going to breeze past that part because we know. But what I want to talk about is your love and passion for cooking, and then how did that propel you to appearing on a Food Network?
My love and passion for cooking is my love and passion for people. I just use cooking because I'm good at it. Remember, my dad gave me this spiritual gift of understanding how to manipulate ingredients to please others. I have a very extensive palate. It's very sensitive. I've trained it, and I understand flavor profiles. So for me, being able to manipulate flavor profiles, food, ingredients, understanding how things work together, how things are grown from the ground, there's that agriculture coming up, and the nutrients, and understand the spirituality behind food and things like that. I'm now in a position to where I'm really looking at how I can help people with food, and not just make a delicious pot of food, but I make the best macaroni and cheese. Let's just say I make the best macaroni and cheese. 45 people come to eat this macaroni and cheese. Within that 45 people coming to eat, they're all in the space eating this macaroni and cheese. I am also sharing other small businesses. I'm sharing ministries. I'm sharing job opportunities. I'm giving community efforts, all behind the macaroni and cheese. Now, the macaroni and cheese is what got them in there. But once they got the macaroni and cheese, they got civil rights. They got, community economic development. They got ministry. They got I think I probably employed more ex-cons than anybody in that city. Opportunity. They got opportunity. What do y'all need? I'm here. I got this. Shoot, what can we do with this? You get opportunity. And I think that was really, that's what I love about my gift of cooking, is that I can create opportunity for others with it.
How did that propel you to the Food Network? What was that experience?
It's a little slithering in there. I was doing a lot of research before I opened my restaurant on the most successful restaurants in small towns. And the most successful restaurants in small towns were recognized by Guy's Grocery, or not Guy's Grocery, but Diners, Drive-Ins, and Dives by Guy Fieri. And I thought, if I'm going to get the recognition, I got to bring something that there isn't anything like that around here. So I did a lot of work. I ate at every restaurant in town. I surveyed every manager in town. I talked to every server in town. I went to every fast food restaurant in town. I made sure my restaurant was nothing like anything else there. And then I elevated mine to be the best. Not just the best because of the food, but the best known because of social media. So I compiled my personality, my visibility on social media already based off of my network marketing platform. And I just utilized that and I made it better. I took every tool I could and made myself popular in the way that people were standing outside before I was open to eat macaroni with barbecue on top. Like, really, crab legs with some butter sauce. But it was what they heard about. It was the buzz. It was the talk of the town. It was all over Facebook. And the Food Network got wind of it. Now, I remember getting emails from, oh, we want you to do this show. But I ignore that kind of stuff. I normally was like, okay, click, spam. You know, they want you to sign up for something. But the day the Food Network called, I thought it was a prank at first. I was like, hold on a second. Let me get you my secretary. So I'm actually speaking to someone who's one of the producers on the show. And she calls and says, you know, we've heard a lot about your restaurant. We just want to know if you're interested in doing any appearances on Guy's Grocery Games. And I was like, yeah, let me check my calendar. You know, I might be busy that day. And then I put her on hold again. And then I came back and I was like, I think I can do it. When are we talking? You know, I had to play it cool. And then I hung up the phone and I'm screaming all around the world. But then I had to really keep it quiet because the person I am has to market the shit out of this, right? Like, I had to think of a marketing strategy of a lifetime, baby. And I did. I had a marketing strategy of a lifetime. And I went on, I did the Food Network. It was amazing. I'm not going to tell you how it went. You'll have to watch the episode for yourself. But I will say, just being on the network and seeing how television was produced and understanding how food television was produced, seeing the level of culinary knowledge that was around the room and understanding what I wanted to do professionally, I think it signified for me that I definitely want to do food entertainment, but not with the studio type situation. It just gave me an understanding of this is close, but this isn't quite it. It was fun. I had a great time. There was a huge staff. I learned that, you know, a production staff is huge and you need a lot of people when you do something like that. So that kind of gave me an understanding. But I will say that it transforms my confidence in the culinary world. You can't tell me my shit don't stink. Like, at the end of the day, the people that I know that say my food tastes good are not the judges that were sitting right there, you know, during the cameras on and saying what they were supposed to be saying. It was the people coming by, taking a spoon out of my pot, like sipping it on the side when the cameras weren't on me. Like, those people that were like, okay, I see what you're doing there. That was what I needed. You know, I watched Guy Fieri's Guy's Grocery Games. I watched every single episode up into mine. And some of them I watched multiple times. I studied it. He rarely goes around and doesn't give feedback or a teaching moment. He normally comes around and says, you gonna turn that over? How long are you gonna let that go? What you think you're gonna do about that? And he came over to my station. I remember he came over a couple of times, and I think on the show you only see it once or twice, but a couple of times, and he was eating out of my pots, baby. He was eating. He was not snacking. He was not tasting. He was eating. Okay, let's just be real. And when he did that, you know, when you watch him on diners, drive-ins, and dives, you're waiting for the moment to see him.
Tell when he's eating and when he's tasting.
Listen,
I can tell the
you
difference.
can tell.